Tonight, ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolás Maduro tells a U.S. court he's been kidnapped. The stunning moments inside a Manhattan courtroom and the uncertainty for the region and beyond.
Just down that roadway is Venezuela.
CBC News is at the border with Colombia, a country preparing its own show of force.
2026 could be the year where people's fears are realized.
We break down what Donald Trump's escalating threats could mean for the world and Canada in particular. Calgary residents told to reduce water use right now or risk lives.
This pipe is dying, it is sick, it is terminally ill.
Why a permanent fix could take years. And the first GLP-1 pill hits American pharmacies.
The availability of new treatments always provides hope for patients.
But greater access also means more concerns about just who is taking them.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Well, what a remarkable sight, a remarkable moment in New York. Nicolás Maduro standing in front of a Manhattan judge professing his innocence, while at the United Nations, the U.S. defended its own moves to get him there. It was the deposed Venezuelan leader's first court appearance after being captured by U.S. forces on the weekend. And he had a lot to say, officially pleading not guilty and declaring himself a prisoner of war. The U.S. insists its actions were legal, and now it's threatening more countries. Katie Simpson takes us through the political fallout, starting with the extraordinary scene that played out in New York.
Venezuela's deposed leader marched in his orange prison-issued shoes toward his new reality. Handcuffed, Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, boarded a helicopter, an added layer of security for their extraordinary commute to a court appearance in Manhattan that proved to be just as dramatic. Maduro told the judge he was kidnapped, saying in Spanish, "I'm innocent, I'm not guilty, I'm a decent man, I am still the president of my country." As the hearing ended, a man in the gallery confronted Maduro, saying he will pay for his crimes. Maduro fired back, saying he would win his freedom, calling himself a prisoner of war. U.S. military forces captured Maduro and his wife Saturday during a deadly raid in Caracas. The U.S. is now demanding what's left of the regime grant American companies access to Venezuelan oil reserves, as President Donald Trump vows to run the country.
Don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
At an emergency UN Security Council meeting, the U.S. ambassador insisted they are not occupying the country.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people.
Appearing emboldened, Mike Waltz aggressively defended what he called a law enforcement operation.
This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be used as a base of operation for our nation's adversaries and competitors and rivals of the United States.
A message underscored on social media by this post from the U.S. State Department. All of it in line with new warnings from the president, now threatening possible interventions in Colombia and Mexico, and once again, Greenland.
Greenland should be part of the United States. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
There is growing alarm among leaders in Greenland and Denmark, with pleas for this rhetoric to end. If the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, says Denmark's prime minister, including the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War. Trump continues to face criticism at home as well. Some lawmakers are furious they were not consulted in advance about the U.S. military plans in Venezuela, though confidential briefings on Capitol Hill have now taken place.
And Katie, part of the concern there is the lack of clarity about Trump's next steps in Venezuela.
Yeah, really, the only thing we know for sure is that Trump has signaled Venezuelan oil is a priority. In a new phone interview, he says he thinks oil infrastructure can be rebuilt by American companies in less than 18 months, and he's suggested there's no urgent rush to organize new elections.
All right, we will see. That's Katie Simpson in Washington. Now, as Katie mentioned, among the other countries Trump is now threatening with U.S. military might is Colombia. It shares a border with Venezuela. And as Paul Hunter shows us from the city of Cucuta, it is now home to a lot of uncertainty.
Crossing the border bridge from Venezuela into Colombia, they walk. Some going for a day, some for longer. All now with a new and unanswered question: what next for Venezuela? Mr. Trump, treat us carefully. We are a peaceful country, Venezuela's Gerson Alvarado told us on his way in. As for Nicolás Maduro, this message from Miguel Angel Ross. Let them keep him there as long as possible, he says. He hurt us a lot, too much harm to Venezuela. Venezuelan border guards keeping careful watch on who's coming and going. But here's what everyone now crossing into Colombia sees once they get there. Armored personnel carriers and Colombian soldiers, guns in hand, dispatched to the border in case they're needed. So far, they're not. But uncertainty is the word of the moment in this region, a border zone on edge. All in, some 30,000 security officers are now in place. Meanwhile, in Venezuela's capital, parliamentary lawmakers chanted, "Let's go, Nico," for Nicolás Maduro. The former president's second in command, Delcy Rodriguez, was officially sworn in as interim president. She's said to be softening in her tone with the U.S., but at the event, she called the U.S. action on Maduro an illegitimate military aggression against our homeland. Maduro's son also spoke at the swearing-in. He called it a kidnapping. And to you, Dad, he said, you made all of us in the family strong. We will fulfill your duties until you return. Back at the border, word that Trump is also threatening to go after Colombia's president, Gustavo Petro, was lost on no one.
A sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States.
Crossing back and forth with her son on this day, Paula Cortez told us her message to Donald Trump on that is, in effect, go for it.
Genial, sería genial, porque de verdad.
That would be great, she told us, adding her view that Colombia's government treats criminals better than it treats regular Colombians. And so the crossings continued. So too that big question, now what? For his part, Adrian, Colombia's President Gustavo Petro tonight warning Donald Trump if he takes action on this country, Petro himself will take up arms and fight back.
Okay, so that's key, but Paul, it's not the only message coming out of Colombia tonight.
No, it isn't. In fact, the Colombian government broadly taking a slightly different tack. Two senior ministers issuing a statement on video and handing it out to journalists, saying that Colombia will continue to work with the United States to combat drug trafficking. The slightly mixed messaging from this country certainly adding to the uncertainty all round. Adrian.
Indeed. All right. That's Paul Hunter in Cucuta, Colombia. So an operation in Venezuela to start the year. But what does the U.S. do now? And critically, how does its goal to take control of the Western Hemisphere affect Canada? We'll get into that in about 20 minutes. Well, Prime Minister Mark Carney arrived in Paris tonight ahead of crucial talks about Ukraine's future. More than 30 allies will discuss Ukraine's request for security guarantees in the event that U.S.-led peace negotiations with Russia end 4 years of fighting. Ukraine is asking for pledges of protection to deter Russia from resuming hostilities after a negotiated ceasefire. All of that as Chrystia Freeland announces she will resign her seat in the coming weeks to become an economic advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the former deputy prime minister who has deep Ukrainian roots, saying in a statement, Ukraine is at the forefront of today's global fight for democracy, and I welcome this chance to contribute on an unpaid basis. Well, there are urgent new warnings out of Calgary as the city continues to deal with a major water main break. The mayor is now suggesting that if people don't do more to conserve water, lives could be at risk. Aaron Collins now on why this problem could persist for years.
This is the best pizza in the city, guys. That may be, but this pizzeria was quiet on the busiest night of the year, shut down after Calgary's primary water main suddenly burst.
Forced to shut down on New Year's Eve, that's got to impact your business.
Definitely, it did impact my business. I lost a lot of revenue.
That busted pipe causing chaos, flooding the Trans-Canada Highway, triggering boil water advisories and water restrictions. The city urging people to do more to cut back on water use and potentially save lives.
Your savings will ensure there's enough water for critical activities like firefighting. A single fire can use 4.5 million liters of water.
That's a message getting through to at least some Calgarians.
I think it's important that we adhere to the restrictions and, limit the showers and limit the washes and all the other things.
Doing multiple uses of the toilet before we flush for just urine.
Calgary's feeder main has failed before. A nearby stretch of the pipe burst 18 months ago. Repairs to that section took months. Well, this time around, the city hopes to complete the repairs by early next week. But the mayor says the city's water system needs an overhaul and that Calgarians need to get used to conserving water.
This pipe is dying, it is sick, it is terminally ill, and until we build the new replacement line, this is the new reality that we're living in.
The mayor says replacing the city's feeder main will take 2 years, and some local businesses may need help over that time.
We pay taxes, city runs on our taxes, province runs on our taxes, and we are the backbone of this province.
The city hasn't ruled that help out, but as repairs continue to Calgary's main source of water, officials say job one is getting people to use less. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Winnipeg police are asking the public for help tonight as they investigate 2 hate crimes over the weekend.
We are imploring the community. We cannot be casual bystanders.
So early Friday morning, a lone suspect was reported defacing a synagogue with swastikas. And on Sunday, a window was smashed at a Palestinian cafe and a note was left that read in part, "Leave our country, terrorists." Police said hate crimes in Winnipeg have been on the rise for 2 years. Well, housing markets in many major Canadian cities have been sluggish, and now new data shows Vancouver hit a 25-year low in sales. John Hernandez shows us just how bad it got.
You see,
Vancouver realtor Hassan Juma says 2025 was grueling.
Very common to see listings on the market for 6 months, 9 months, up to a year.
This historically hot housing market gone cold, which meant tough conversations with sellers.
What you're doing is you're adjusting prices as you go, and you're not adjusting up, you're adjusting down. And so every time you're having that conversation, it's difficult.
Residential home sales in Metro Vancouver dropped to a 25-year low, totaling just 23,800 in 2025, a decline of more than 10% from the year before. Compared to the sales average over the last 10 years, a drop of nearly 25%. Typical home prices fell by about 4.5% to $1.1 million. Juma says he noticed the downturn in February, right around the same time U.S. and Canada trade tensions were escalating.
People started to really worry about, is my job secure? Is my employment secure? What's this year going to look like?
We haven't seen one this bad since around 2008 now.
This economist says the trend extends to other large markets in Canada, including Toronto. And while the experts expect 2026 could be another slow year, there are signs buyer confidence could improve.
Time passes, there's a realization that, hey, maybe it's not so bad and maybe things are going to stabilize.
Surprisingly, there's a lot less.
This mortgage broker says mounting inventory in places like Toronto and Vancouver, including thousands of empty homes, ultimately means more options for buyers, and interest rates are also holding steady.
I think it's probably one of the best times to get in the market. Prices are low, rates are decent.
A market cooled down after years of growth, and no telling how long the dip will last. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
There's a new pill available to Americans tonight to help treat obesity. And while it's not approved in Canada yet, as Jennifer LaGrassa tells us, generic, cheaper versions of popular weight loss medications are expected to arrive here this year.
Arlene Wernich is starting this new year feeling a lot healthier.
I've always suffered with obesity my whole life.
Since March, the 63-year-old is down 50 pounds. She says it's thanks to a new diet, exercise, and a semaglutide injection.
I've obviously seen a remarkable difference in my weight.
Now the first pill form of a GLP-1 drug is hitting the U.S. market. Manufacturer Novo Nordisk announcing Americans can now buy a daily pill of Wegovy, making it easier to take for weight loss than weekly injections.
The availability of new treatments always provides hope for patients.
It's also cheaper. The starter dose for now, just $149 U.S. a month. About $200 less than injections.
It just allows us to tailor the treatment to the individual patient's needs.
Health Canada has not yet approved the Wegovy pill. It is also considering generic versions of the medication that right now are only available under brand names like Ozempic and Wegovy. 9 submissions are awaiting approval by Health Canada. Experts say generics will increase access, which creates other concerns.
People taking it on the side of their desk for crash dieting and things like that is never advisable.
More options will also lower the price of the shots.
We're looking at about $100 to $125, $150 a month, which is way lower than what it is right now.
Depending on the dosage, Canadians can pay up to $400 a month out of pocket, as many insurance companies don't cover the fee for obesity.
All I thought about was food.
Wernich pays $240 a month for her Ozempic. Knowing that she might be on the medication for the rest of her life, she's looking forward to cheaper options. Experts predict that generic weight loss drugs could hit Canadian shelves by the summer. Jennifer Lagrassa, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada's intelligence watchdog is sounding the alarm over budget cuts. It warns cost-cutting will limit its ability to keep a close eye on the people who deal with the country's most sensitive information at a time when Ottawa looks to spend big on defense. Catherine Tunney explains just what's at risk.
Inside the buildings behind me, Canadian spies are at work gathering top secret information. Their work is classified and largely hidden from the public, but not from the eyes of its watchdog agencies.
There's traditionally in Canada been an expectation that with great powers comes great responsibility. And these services have great powers.
Here at the National Security and Intelligence Review Agency, investigators keep tabs on how that power is used, making sure anyone who deals with intelligence, from spies to Mounties, is behaving above board and that the rights of individuals are respected. But the watchdog is warning that planned Liberal budget cuts are putting that work at risk. Like other government departments, NCIRA has been told to slash its budget. Craig Forsey says that belt-tightening will likely mean fewer reviews and a lighter touch.
That is that we may not be able to follow every thread to the extent that we currently do. And both those outcomes would be regrettable and I think perilous in terms of the confidence that one can have in the legality and ultimately the efficacy of our security and intelligence community.
The cuts come at a time when the government is trying to pass legislation that would make it easier for CSIS and the RCMP to get private electronic information and expand the Coast Guard's mandate to gather intelligence.
We will have to reduce the degree of scrutiny that we conduct in relation to those agencies.
The reality is, this national security observer says a wider rethink is overdue.
There was supposed to be a review as to how these agencies actually operate, and so far that hasn't been done. So it's hard to actually know the impact that this will have without that review that was promised.
The federal government says it will work with NCIRA about its concerns, but the public safety minister has been clear. Cuts are coming to the intelligence watchdog. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Ottawa.
Airlines based in the Middle East now have more access to Canadian skies.
Just the concept of showering at 35,000 feet is a little bit bonkers.
How you could benefit from the added competition. Drift logs on BC shores potentially harming wildlife.
You compromise the abundance and the health of these species.
How the impact could be minimized. And Canadian skydivers reach brand new heights.
It leaves some images in the mind that are absolutely amazing.
We're back in 2.
And now, the 2026 IIHF World Junior Championship bronze medals go to Team Canada.
So it's not the medal Canada was hoping for, but the team got a bronze after beating Finland 6-3 at the World Juniors. It follows a heartbreaking loss to Czechia yesterday. Well, Canadian airlines are set to face stiffer competition from the Middle East. Ottawa is loosening restrictions on the number of flights coming from the region. Ashley Burke explains why and what it means for travelers.
It's like my own little house over here.
Watching viral videos like this is the only way for some Canadians to experience flights from the Middle East, famous for their first-class seats.
Just the concept of showering at 35,000 feet is a little bit bonkers.
But now Canada's opening up its skies to more flights from Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Past diplomatic disputes had limited flights.
There is renewed and increased interest, and this reps attention on these issues.
After the Prime Minister's visit to Abu Dhabi to diversify trade away from the U.S., Canada announced new reciprocal agreements, which will loosen up restrictions limiting some foreign flights.
The global economy is being rewired. Canada isn't retreating.
Carney's government will now allow from Saudi Arabia as many as 14 passenger flights per week, up from 4, and from the UAE as many as 35 a week, up from a maximum of 21, plus unlimited cargo flights from each country.
This is all part of our ambition to continue to grow export markets, build and strengthen business ties.
Airlines from the Middle East will be able to fly more Canadian travelers to their hubs and connecting flights all over the world.
Canadian carriers are going to have to up the ante and up their game.
This aviation expert says Canadian travelers are the true winners in all of this.
It'll push Air Canada, it'll push WestJet, it may push our friends over Transat to kind of look at the service level they're offering on board the airplane.
He says Canadian airlines will likely have to upgrade their planes, cabins, and customer service to go head-to-head with these competitors from the Middle East, and adds that these foreign airlines know how to fill up their seats with low-cost economy tickets as they try to bring in big money from their first-class seats. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
The U.S. mission in Venezuela is sparking concern far beyond South America.
I think that NATO's on a knife edge, to be honest.
America's threats of domination and the potential implications for Canada. And a closer look at Venezuela's new interim president.
I'm not sure I've ever met anyone who is a more true believer in the socialist cause.
Why her relationship with Donald Trump could get messy. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Parts of Newfoundland are digging out after a major snowstorm. St. John's saw 28 centimeters and close to 40 in other parts of the province. The heavy snow closed schools in the capital and delayed flights, mail delivery, and transit. Well, a new study finds drift logs washing up along BC's coastline are destroying critical ecosystems. As Caroline Bargout tells us, this is affecting a valuable food source for both marine mammals and birds.
On just about every beach in British Columbia, there are drift logs, piles of them. When the tide goes out, they go out with it. When it comes in, the logs crash onto shore. That is causing widespread destruction of intertidal ecosystems, according to a study published by University of Victoria adjunct professor Thomas Reimken.
All of this stuff would have been covered in articles before.
Reimken and two of his students examined the ecological impact of drift logs and their movement over time. They found that populations of barnacles are 20 to 80% lower on surfaces exposed to logs. The fewer the barnacles, the less food there is for birds and other marine mammals.
When you sort of basically compromise their food source, which is essential during a migration, you compromise even more sort of the abundance and the health of these species.
He believes that has contributed to the reduction of certain species in North America.
You see that over there? That is a log boom. It's how the industry stores and transports timber in BC. Boats pull the boom to processing mills and export points. But along the way, some of the cargo falls off and eventually washes onto shore.
This University of British Columbia zoology professor says there is more wood floating in the ocean now than ever before.
I have often shaken my fist at drift logs which float by and destroy my precious experiments on the shore. So we've known that drift logs could be a problem, but this study did a really nice job of examining how extensive a problem that might be.
Harley says it would be impractical to send crews to collect drift logs from thousands of kilometers of shoreline. But perhaps logging companies can take more care holding their booms together to minimize the number of logs that break free. The BC government says the forestry sector is moving towards using barges to transport harvested timber, which would decrease the likelihood of loose logs falling off. Caroline Bargu, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now it's time to dig deeper into the stories shaping our world.
Vengo con dolor.
Venezuela's new interim president sworn in after the U.S. military seizes Nicolás Maduro. So just who is Delcy Rodriguez? But first,
2026 could be the year where people's fears are realized.
U.S. plans for Venezuela may be murky, but the global strategy is right out in the open.
American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again.
But in the U.S. national security strategy just made public, that push to assert regional power is only one side of the coin. On the other side is the Trump administration's view of the rest of the world. And it is quite a departure from the ideas that have guided Washington for decades. Eli Glasner looks at Trump's security strategy in light of the toppling of Maduro, including what this could mean for Canada.
After the chaos and disruption that marked Trump's first year back in office,
you don't have the cards.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm on the edge of my seat.
Amor. We're going to run the country. Is there any way to predict what's next? Yeah. Meet the National Security Strategy, or the NSS. If Project 2025, the policy paper that turned out to be a blueprint for how Trump's term started, well, this lays out what's next. And reading in between the lines,
2026 could be the year where people's fears are realized.
This is not only a question with Venezuela. It is unpredictable and to a certain extent unreliable.
NATO's on a knife edge.
Well, buckle up. So, what is the NSS? Every few years, Washington publishes what is basically a guide for Congress and all facets of government. It lists the administration's goals, and spoiler alert, it makes United States control and influence over the Western Hemisphere the main priority.
Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen.
A point made painfully clear as American forces swooped in a stunning nighttime raid to capture Venezuela's president, Nicolás Maduro. Part of the justification and cited in the national security strategy, a 200-year-old political policy.
All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore.
First articulated by James Monroe, the 5th U.S. president, the Monroe Doctrine asserts America's supremacy in the Western Hemisphere. Now rebranded the Donroe Doctrine. And Trump is already taking his cue, threatening other countries in the region from Colombia.
Colombia is very sick, too, run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States, and he's not going to be doing it very long.
To Mexico.
Mexico has to get their act together because they're pouring through Mexico, and we're going to have to do something.
In Buenos Aires, international relations expert Juan Tocatlian has been watching with concern. What do you think of this idea of Trump now talking about actual land attacks inside Mexico and also attacking the government of Colombia, with at very least his words?
Today, the armed forces of the United States are completely aligned with Trump, with Hexet. So this is not only a question with Venezuela. This has a lot to do with Colombia. It has a lot to do with Mexico.
But he says Trump may soon have supporters. After recent elections in Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia, there could be a major sea change in the region.
Then we have elections in Peru next April, May in Colombia, and October in Brazil. In these three cases, right-wing, extreme right-wing parties had a chance to win. If that is so, suddenly the United States, suddenly Trump, will have the capacity to align the whole South America. And that is a major change in the last quarter century.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look at the country that gets the least mentions in the NSS. Here it is, Canada. Carrie Buck is a former Canadian ambassador to NATO. As I quote the document, she worries about the implications for Canada. The United States must be preeminent in the Western Hemisphere as a condition of our security and prosperity. What does that say for our own sovereignty?
Well, it's like I said, back to the 19th century, where the equality of states, the legal equality of states, it's enshrined in Article 2 of the UN Charter, kind of goes up in a poof of smoke. So our sovereignty is there and is framed as something to be dominated.
Buck is also disturbed by the language.
And it essentially, I think, cedes Europe to Russian sphere of influence and increases the risk of Russian escalation, including potentially outside of Ukraine, I think. It attacks the EU, it undercuts NATO. NATO's pretty important to us. I think that NATO's on a knife edge, to be honest.
While the 2017 NSS document from Trump's first term said, Russia aims to weaken U.S. influence in the world and divide us from our allies and partners. But the new NSS says the priority is to re-establish strategic stability with Russia.
All this is essentially driving a Mack truck through the infrastructure that's NATO. It's increasing the chance that there'll be Russian aggression on NATO territory, even more than there is right now.
Carl Bildt was the Prime Minister of Sweden from 1991 to 94. He's watched the America he worked with change dramatically.
We have a situation with the United States, we have to be frank about that, where it is unpredictable and to a certain extent unreliable.
And yet the NSS says the U.S. wants Europe to regain its civilizational self-confidence and welcomes the influence of what it describes as patriotic European parties, a phenomenon occurring in Sweden and across the continent.
Migration has been a major issue, and criminality associated with migration has been a difficult issue for many European countries, Sweden included. And we have seen the rise of a party to the extreme right, which is now around 20%.
And as the president himself has expressed,
well, Europe is a different place. Keeps going the way it's going. Europe will not be, in my opinion, many of those countries will not be viable countries any longer.
In fact, the NSS worries about a future where NATO members become majority non-European.
Where is that coming from? I mean, it's something that they must sort of found on the garbage heap of the extreme right somewhere. Because it doesn't correspond to any sort of reality.
So let's move from Europe to another part of the world, Asia, specifically China, where the economic balance appears to be the main focus, much to the dismay of Gordon Chang. He's the author of Plan Red, China's project to destroy America.
I did not like the idea that President Trump did not identify China as America's primary adversary, because I believe that we should be talking about China in the same terms that it talks about us. It identifies the United States as its enemy.
The NSS focuses on rebalancing America's economic relationship with China and building multi-trillion-dollar alliances to counteract China's growing power. When it comes to the contentious future of Taiwan, it states the U.S. does not support any unilateral change to the status quo. Chang wants more.
I believe that the President of the United States should get behind the Resolute desk, in front of the cameras, and say that the United States will defend Taiwan.
And yet, in this document, it mostly frames China as an economic competitor. How do you square that circle?
I think that Trump is not Ronald Reagan. If Ronald Reagan were writing that document, he'd be saying China is the evil empire. But Trump doesn't do that. When you look at what Trump has been doing, things that aren't mentioned in that document or have occurred since then, you got to really be concerned if you're a Chinese aggressor.
So, what a cheerful look ahead, right? Turmoil in the South, serious questions about China, the future of NATO, and more. In the face of all of this, what can Canada do? Well, according to Ambassador Buck, Canada needs to emulate a humble Canadian creature, and probably not the one you're thinking.
Like a duck, strategic patience and calm on the surface and paddling like mad underneath. So move quickly to diversify those trade and defense relationships, even quicker than the PM has said. We're going to have to manage this with some very deft diplomacy. And that won't just happen in Washington and Ottawa. It's going to happen in other places around the world where our interests and the U.S. interests don't align.
Paddling forward in the choppy water ahead.
So, Eli, I'm thinking about your reporting. You've reported on Venezuela a few times. Certainly, you looked at the national security strategy out of the U.S. That leads me to think that what happened this weekend wasn't entirely a surprise to you.
I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Like, you expect it, but you never really believe. And that's what I was hearing from people inside the region. There was this sense of tension, almost of disbelief. It's like the entire region was holding its breath. And yet we were watching this military presence in the Caribbean Sea grow and grow. And that's where I think documents like the NSS are useful. It is all there in black and white. Now, yes, in an opening letter, Donald Trump talks about making peace all over the world, but it also talks about control, essentially, of the entire Western Hemisphere, about denying access to competitors to protect American interests. This is clear, blunt language. But I want to point out there is a portion in the NSS where it talks about the primacy of nations and respecting sovereignty. So certainly there are limits.
Okay, people better read that fairly closely. All right, Eli Glasner, thank you.
My pleasure.
Coming up, a new interim leader takes the reins in Venezuela days after the U.S. seized her predecessor.
I'm not sure I've ever met anyone who is a more true believer in the socialist cause than Delcy Rodriguez.
Now she has to manage the demands of the U.S. president. We'll break down who she is next. As Venezuela moves on without Nicolás Maduro, his longtime ally takes over.
She is a hardline, true believer.
On the day Maduro answers a judge in New York City, Delcy Rodriguez is sworn in as interim president in Caracas. We know quite a lot about Maduro, who strong-armed Venezuela for more than a decade, but for most people, his successor is a little bit of a mystery. So who is Delcy Rodriguez? Lindsay Duncombe takes a look.
Vengo con dolor por el secuestro de dos héroes que tenemos.
As she was sworn in, Delcy Rodriguez condemned the American operation that brought her here, calling it illegitimate. This may be a new presidency, but Rodriguez is very much aligned with Venezuela's old government, and pretty much everything in her history suggests she's no pushover.
So she's a very passionate, fiery woman. I'm not sure I've ever met anyone who is a more true believer in the socialist cause than Delcy Rodriguez.
Ben Rosewell was Canadian ambassador to Venezuela from 2014 to 2017. He remembers Rodriguez, then foreign minister, summoning dozens of ambassadors to lecture them on socialism.
She proceeded to just go on this rant for something like an hour. I think it just took forever. She was confrontational to everyone, to all of her fellow Latin American ambassadors, all of the African ambassadors. She treated everyone with sort of equal disdain, that you guys haven't seen the light of the one true path.
Nuestro comandante eterno.
Rodriguez comes from a family of revolutionaries. Her father was a socialist leader who died in jail. Her brother is the head of the National Assembly. She is a lawyer, educated in Britain and France. She joined the Chavez government in the early 2000s. Under Maduro, she became increasingly powerful. Foreign minister, oil minister, rumored successor.
She is a hardline, true believer. And that's what makes it hard to believe
that she could be Trump's agent, that she will simply comply with Trump's dictates.
UBC's Max Cameron has studied Latin American politics for more than 3 decades.
I think that there's going to be a complicated game of chicken that's going to be played between Delcy Rodriguez and Marco Rubio and Donald Trump. And where that goes is incredibly uncertain. It's incredibly difficult to predict.
Consider what's happened so far. First, Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela.
She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice.
Si hay algo que el pueblo venezolano y que este país tiene muy claro.
Rodriguez fires back, saying Venezuela will never be a colony of any empire. Then Trump tells The Atlantic magazine if she doesn't do what's right, she's going to pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro. And Rodriguez softens, saying in a post, "We invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation."
My sense is that he exposed her and that she has tried to push back to make it appear less like there is actually collusion going on. But I suspect that collusion is precisely what's at the heart of this.
Cameron suggests the U.S. doesn't really want to invade Venezuela.
They're going to hold the threat of invasion like a sort of Damocles over the Venezuelan government, but they're going to try to use that to force the Venezuelan government to comply with their wishes, which is going to mean things like giving access to oil.
And that could work for Rodriguez, too, says Rosewell.
So as long as people close to Trump are getting paid off, then Delcy Rodriguez and her coterie can remain in power. And that would be, I think, about the worst possible outcome for the people of Venezuela.
En nombre de todos los venezolanos.
The one outcome that seems clear hours into Venezuela's new presidency, its new relationship with Washington. More volatility, more uncertainty, and so much at stake.
And the Wall Street Journal is reporting tonight on a classified CIA assessment of the post-Maduro leadership of Venezuela. According to sources it didn't name, that assessment found that Rodriguez and other regime loyalists were a more stable option than Venezuelan opposition leaders, at least in the near term. Here's another story we've got in the works. It's about the illicit drugs bazaar that exists on the dark web. Online storefronts openly advertise, then deliver by courier. It got Omar Debegui Pacheco asking, why is it so hard to shut them down? Here's a preview.
It's like Amazon for hard drugs.
The first time I was like, okay, it's not true. It's a scam.
Cocaine, heroin, MDMA.
You go on the website and it's very easy.
Paid for with credit cards and e-transfers.
They're positioning themselves as an ethical drug dealer.
Delivered to your door by Canada Post.
Did you try it that moment?
Yeah, on the spot.
It's cocaine.
A while ago, my producer Ryan and I started noticing ads popping up on Facebook and Instagram. These ads were offering pure cocaine, not subtle, not discreet, open advertising on the open web. We started digging, and for a lot of people, what we found is going to sound unbelievable.
Now, you can watch Omar's full story in the coming days right here on The National. Well, coming up, over 100 skydivers set a new record.
Doing a large formation like that, it's unreal. It's like flying right beside the UFO.
The Canadians who were part of the crew, next in our moment. So this is wild. You're looking at a record-breaking skydive in Florida featuring more than 100 people. Among them were 17 Canadians from Quebec who trained for over 5 years for this. Now, their epic dive makes our moment.
Doing a large formation like that, it's unreal. It's like flying right beside the UFO.
The last record was from 2007 of a 100-way canopy formation. We did succeed to complete a 104-way canopy formation skydive.
That plan was in the making since about 5 years. It was 19 Canadians that were in the team. So your mind is definitely balancing between being very, very concentrated on the task and enjoying what's happening.
We're coming from the 20 different countries, so you have to trust everyone beside you to experience something that no one have ever experienced before. And to succeed as a group was really great.
You can feel the vibe of all the people, trying to make it work, towards one goal. It leaves some images in the mind that are absolutely amazing. What we're doing, it's not really normal, for human beings, because we're flying. That's absolutely exhilarating.
So it was their 21st effort at getting it right that they finally got it right and got that record. And Jean told us that one of the first things you're taught as a skydiver is not to get too close to people. So what they did wasn't just tough physically, it was really tough psychologically. From all of us at the National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.